What is going on, guys? It's Modded Warfare here. Welcome back to another video. So Q&A time. We got tons of questions to go over. Far too many for me to cover in this one video, as you can see. So I'm just going to try and go through as many as I possibly can. Probably only get to about 5% of these, but we'll try and go through as many as possible here. I'm not going to be answering certain questions though. For example, I'm not going to be answering questions where people are asking about the new jailbreak rumors, because I'm going to be doing a separate video on that. So just bear with me, I will get to that in another video soon. I'm also not going to be covering questions that I'm going to be answering in my channel update video, which will also be out soon as well. So yeah, just please bear with me on those for those questions. I know there's a lot of people asking me about PS4 jailbreak rumors stuff. I will get to that in another video, and it will be a much more lengthy video just all about that one subject. So that's why I'm not going to be covering it in this video specifically. So anyway, first of all, let's start with some of the top comments. Can you add PC mods in other games like Witcher 3 like you show in Skyrim or Fallout? Technically you can, it just depends on the game. If there's tools available to convert the PC version to the PS4 version for the different file formats and stuff like that, then you can do it, and there needs to be PC mods obviously in the game in the first place for the PC version. But the reason it's so easy on Skyrim and Fallout is because Skyrim and Fallout can actually run the PC versions of the files. So like DDS files for textures and like .wav files for sound. Normally that would have to be converted into the PS4 specific format for the audio, which I think it does in terms of audio, but other files it can run the PC version, like the texture files can just run the normal PC textures. Sometimes there needs to be a bit of converting there, but generally that's why it's so much easier for Fallout and Skyrim, because they can just, the PS4 version can just run the PC files anyway. Can we expect more mods for PS4 games on Tyler Mods? Okay, so that's to do with Tyler Mods. Ask him, he's probably the person to ask about that kind of stuff. Why is the Xbox One without a jailbreak till now? Well, Microsoft are just damn good at security, it seems. I guess they just made a mistake with the Xbox 360, but obviously they paid attention. They learned from their mistakes on the Xbox One. Team Executor are the ones who were behind trying to make a Xbox One exploit, and they made a lot of the exploits for the or a lot of the tools, the hardware tools for the exploits for the Xbox 360, the X360 USB Pro, the CK3i, so a Cool Runner chip for RGHing the console. So they've made loads and loads of hardware tools. Those are the guys who had the most promise of coming up with some kind of exploit for the Xbox One, and they never managed to do it. They even got to the point of, I think, ordering some kind of industrial level machine to try and read the CPU to see if they could use that somehow to figure out an exploit, but they never managed to do it as far as I'm aware, because they jumped over to working on the Nintendo Switch instead, because that was obviously a lot easier. And they made, the what's it called, the SXOS custom firmware and the SX Pro and the, what else, the new mod chip that they're working on just now for the, not the patch, yeah, for the patched model switches. So they're working on that at the moment. So they've kind of given up, I think, on the Xbox One. Do you have any info about there being a possible Xbox One exploit like there is for the PS4? No, unfortunately not. Please make a video on how to use option in the jailbreak menu. What are the do's and don'ts on jailbreaking debug options menu? As in the debug settings, I normally don't really mess around with a lot of the settings in the debug settings. Normally they're not really required. So the only thing you really need in the debug settings is the package installer. So that's all I use it for. Is Sony suppressing all hackers as they grow financially? Why is it so hard to do anything with the PS4? It's not that difficult to do things with the PS4. Or if you mean why are they not releasing the exploits, then I don't know, you can get conspiratorial about it and say that they're being blackmailed by Sony to not release it, or maybe they're being paid under the table to keep it private. I don't know, it seems a bit ridiculous. So yeah, I don't think they're suppressing hackers. Just release it anonymously if that was the case. So I just don't really buy that. Any other exploit hosts like Alazev? Yeah, his site is still up. The 165. 227.83.145, I believe is the IP address, to get to the original Alleys of Exploit host. But then there's loads of other ones. You know, there's X Project, there's PS4 Gen2.github.io. There's loads of other ones. Just search on Google, you'll find hundreds of 5.05 exploit hosts out there at the moment. I just bought an RCM loader for my Switch. What are the first must-do things after receiving my RCM loader? I'm going to be following this guide. Well, I'm not going to have a look at that guide just now, but I would say the first thing you should do is obviously make sure you have the EMU NAND set up. Make sure the guide covers setting up EMU NAND, which is something I never covered in my videos because it was before EMU NAND came out. But now that EMU NAND's out, you definitely want to use that. Basically, it creates an emulated version of the NAND, and then like a virtual NAND, and then it runs the custom firmware on the virtual NAND. That way, and it also spoofs, I think, your information, like your console information. So if you're on custom firmware and you get banned, or your console gets flagged to be banned, because it's on the virtual NAND, it's not going to actually affect you when you boot into the original firmware on your normal NAND, the physical NAND on the console. Then you're not going to get banned on that. So that way you can have the best of both worlds. Retail, you can play online with your retail NAND, no problem, and then you can also use the EMU NAND, the virtual NAND, to play all of your jailbroken stuff, do all your homebrew and stuff like that. So that's what you want to make sure you set up initially. It's basically like a dual NAND chip, essentially, like what we have for the Xbox 360 exploits, where you have a dual NAND, where you have a retail NAND and a freeboot image NAND. It's essentially like that, except the second NAND is not a physical NAND, it's a virtual NAND. But it's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. When do you think the next PS4 jailbreak is coming? Again, I'll be covering that in another video. When do you suggest purchasing a Switch? I've been holding off due to not all Switches are exploitable, and I want a newer model. In that case, I would say just wait for the new exploit to come out from Team Executor. They are working on a new chip that is being delayed right now because the chips are manufactured in China, and with what's going on in the world right now, everything is being delayed. So I would wait, just wait, check Team Executor's website, because they post news updates when new stuff comes out regarding that. So keep an eye on that, because once that exploit comes out, once that new mod chip comes out, you'll be able to exploit much more switches, not just the pre-patched model switches, which right now, if you're wanting to get one right now, that is what you need. You need a pre-patched model switch. So that's a switch that's manufactured sometime in 2018 or before then. I'm not sure the exact date in 2018, but it's sometime in 2018 or below. Whereas if you just wait for this mod chip to come out, then much more switches will be exploitable, potentially all of them, including all the patched model switches and the switch lights as well. So I would wait for that. I heard before that there's some devs out there working on some sort of program or something that lets you make PS4 apps in Unity. Is this legit? If it is, and you have some info, are they still working on it, and will it work if it is finished? You can already make PS4 homebrew apps in Unity. You can do that right now. You just need the SDK and some other things, but yeah, you can do it. There is the open source SDK that's coming out, but I don't think that is for Unity. I think that's a separate thing. But yeah, you can make like PS4 homebrew. People have already made homebrew games, like Lappy's made homebrew games and homebrew apps using Unity. So yeah, contact him. He knows all about that stuff. How to avoid kernel panics in PS4 5.05 using Hen version 2.1. You can't, as far as I'm aware. It just happens from time to time. It's just one of those things that happens. All it does is it just shuts off your PS4, you just turn it back on, try and run it again. I've been fairly lucky. I haven't actually had many kernel panics using the later versions of Hen in a long time. So I'm wondering if they've maybe cleaned that up so it doesn't cause as many kernel panics as it used to. But it can still happen from time to time. It's just something you can't really prevent. Clearing your cookies and website data and stuff might help. That's really mainly just for the out of memory errors that you get in the browser. but it may also have something to do with the kernel panics. But for the most part, there's nothing you can really do about it. Oh, when do you think modding online will come? Your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea if we will ever get any kind of online functionality on the PS4 jailbreak, especially without a custom firmware, with it just being, you know, these kernel exploits through the web browser. I'm not sure. I hope so. You know, I'll stay positive. I hope that we do get that at some point, but I have no idea. Wait, how to firmware Xbox 360e DVD-ROM, and will games burned onto single layer 4.7GB DVD work in firmware Xbox 360? The Xbox 360e DVD drives, I'm not sure what model of DVD drive they use. If it's still the same one they've been using on the Trinities, you know, the Lighton DG16D5S, if it's that model, then you can definitely install the custom firmware to that DVD drive, but you do need like a clone PCB, unlocked PCB thing to do it. I've done a whole video on that like way back, like in 2013 or 12 or something like that, but it's still valid, I think. Burning onto single layer 4.7GB DVDs, I don't think that will work. I'm pretty sure they have to be dual layered discs. I could be wrong actually. But most games are going to be over 4.7GB anyway on the Xbox 360, so in most cases you're going to need a plus R DL. It's DVD plus R DL, so plus R dual layer DVDs, 8.7GB I think they are. Those are the DVDs you're going to want for burning Xbox 360 games. Also, is there any new easier way to put Linux? I want CMU. You want CMU on Linux on the PS4? Yeah, there's an easy way to install CMU on Linux for the PS4 if you do it through Lutris. I will be doing a video on that soon. Actually, the install script on Lutris I don't think is for the most up-to-date version, unless they've changed it by the time I make the video, but hopefully you can just update it from within the app once you download it. So it's fairly simple to set up. I will be doing a whole video on that though at some point. Hey Modded Warfare, can you tell me how many exploit payloads can you have on one console? Also, the easiest way to update an exploit. Thanks for everything. Be safe. Can you tell me how many exploit payloads? I don't know how many exploit payloads you can have, unfortunately. If you're talking about like having them cached in the browser or running them off that chip, the Wi-Fi chip, I actually don't know what the maximum you can have on there is. Plus, those chips use different amounts of memory, so you can have different amounts of payloads on each one depending on how much memory it has. What made you want to join the modding community? Mine was CL's challenge lobbies back in Modern Warfare 1, World at War, and Modern Warfare 2 days. For me, it was me being bad at Call of Duty Zombies on World at War, because when I first got the game, I was so bad that I couldn't even get to the point where I could like link all 3 teleporters to pack-a-punch a gun. So I wanted some cheats to help me along, help me with that feat. So what I did was I got a transfer cable, an Xbox 360 hard drive transfer cable that allows you to connect the hard drive of the 360 to the computer, and then you could use a tool called Explorer 360 or Export 360, which allowed you to explore the hard drive, take the save file off it, and then you could use a tool like COD Tool 1.5, which allowed you to modify the save file and rehash and resign, put it back on Explorer 360, back on the hard drive, load up a campaign save with the mods, and then when you backed out of the campaign save, some of the devars, some of the variables would stick, and then you could go into a zombie game then, and some of those variables would still be there, and therefore you'd have some cheats on the game. So that's how I started, and then from there you could do like you know, I looked at other things I could do with that transfer cable after I did that. You know, other game saves I could mod. You know, changing your avatar skin color to any RGB value, changing the gamer score of your account and stuff like that. So then JTAGs and RGHs and flashing your drives and doing hot swap mods as well. All that kind of stuff kind of went from there. Okay, so can you update us about backporting? Playing higher version games in 5.05, please. Okay, so there's a bunch of games that are supported right now. Reed Remastered, One Punch Man, there's Persona 5, I think, and what else? Final Fantasy VII Remake demo, Moons of Madness. Those are the ones I know. There might be some more. It really depends on how many more of those package files are still out there somewhere, the ones that have the decrypted files on them that can be backported to run on 5.05. We don't really know how many of those are still out there in the ether somewhere, so who knows how many more could potentially be backported to 5.05. And then there's all the Unity ones where we have the passcode that can extract those, but those binaries are still encrypted, so even though we can extract the files for those newer games, on those Unity games like Days Gone, we still can't actually backport them to 5.05 without being able to decrypt the binaries first. There may be ways around that, but we haven't seen anything materialize as of right now, as far as I'm aware. Is there a working Netflix app on jailbroken PS4? There might be, but I'm not sure. I've heard that the Netflix app, the non-PSN app, doesn't work anymore, because I made a video on that quite a while ago, which it used to work, but apparently that doesn't work anymore. But what you can do, you can still get Netflix. You just have to boot into Gen 2 Linux on the PS4 and use that, and then you can just use the normal web browser in Gen 2 Linux or PS Vita to watch Netflix using a normal web browser on the PS4. So you can do it that way. Okay, so that's a lot of top comments we just went through, so let's head down to some newest firsts. So we'll do a few newest firsts, and then we'll go down to the bottom and get a couple of ones from a couple of the older ones. So my Xbox 360 keeps freezing as soon as I sign in. Okay, so if you have a stealth server on, that could be causing the problem. What you might need to do is hit the power button of your console and then hit the eject button about half a second to a second later, and that should trigger dash launch to disable the stealth server, and that should hopefully allow you to boot. If that doesn't work, then take the whole hard drive off the console and turn it on, and if it boots into the dashboard with the hard drive disconnected, then it probably is one of your plugins that's causing the problem, in which case just connect the hard drive to your computer with a transfer cable, or I don't know, take it apart, take the drive out and hook it up via SATA or something, and then delete the launch.ini file, or just delete all the plugins inside the launch.ini file, and then put the hard drive back in, and hopefully you should be able to boot without freezing. Why my RGH Xbox 360 can't connect with Xbox Live. If you don't have a stealth server on there, then you shouldn't be trying to connect to Xbox Live, because you'll just get instantly banned. You need a stealth server on there. If you have a stealth server on there, then contact their help and support, because if it's their stealth server that's causing the problem, then that's who you should contact. Or if it's your internet that's the issue, you can tell by testing the PC connection. So you have two internet connection tests when you go into the network settings on the Xbox 360. You have the test Xbox Live connection and test PC connection, and the PC connection just tests your local connection to your router. So do that, and if that test passes, then there's nothing wrong with your console's connection to the internet. It's probably Live Block or Live Strong in Dash Launch that's blocking the connection. Thanks for everything. Can you make a video on PSVR on 5.05? Probably not, because there's not much to really say about PSVR on 5.05 other than the same thing with normal games. You can't run PSVR games that require a higher firmware. The ones that are 5.05 or lower will run, and you just use the VR version of the Homebrew enabler instead of the regular Homebrew enabler. So really not much to cover there, and I don't have a PSVR headset anyway, so I'm not going to be covering that. How many PS4s do you have? Too many. 4 at the moment. I have 2 PS4 Pros. So one's on 5.05, one is on the latest firmware, 7.02, I believe, if that's still the latest firmware. Haven't been on it in a while. Also, I have 2 other regular PS4s as well. One's 1.76, and the other one is on 5.05, which is the one that I've done all of my videos on for 5.05 up till this point. But I'm now switching over to that new 5.05 PS4 Pro. What is the advantage of CMU on PS4 compared to fast PC? Nothing at all. Use the fast PC. It's going to be way better experience. The only reason I'm going to show how to run CMU on a PS4 is because people who just have a PS4 and don't have a fast PC can benefit from at least being able to run some Nintendo games on their PS4, which is pretty cool. But if you already have a fast PC, if you have a gaming PC, then use that obviously to run CMU instead of the PS4, because it's going to be a much better experience. List of noob mistakes, things that can brick a console. What non-obviously things can ban your PS4 account going online and not realizing it? Not as far as I know. There's not much that can get you banned on PS4 right now, because the 5.05 exploit is on such an old firmware that you can't even connect to PSN on such an old firmware. So you're not going to get banned if you have a PS4 on 5.05. So yeah, there's not really much of a risk of getting banned. I would say that, you know, if you're going to update a console that's on 5.05 that you've been, you know, running homebrew on and cheats and mods and stuff, then just as an extra precaution, if I was doing that, I would load into safe mode and then like reformat the hard drive just to wipe all of that stuff off the hard drive before I update to 7.02 and go on the latest firmware and connect to not Xbox, to connect to PSN. Yeah, just as an extra precaution, but generally you should be fine. Shouldn't be any issues if you're getting banned for that. Hey Modded, someone has your video uploaded. Please check it out. I have seen that. That's my Switch tutorial video, which is fine. I'm okay with people re-uploading videos that have been taken down from my channel, because at the end of the day, they're not on YouTube anyway. The original one's gone. If somebody wants to take the risk and upload it again on their channel, that's fine by me. Just as long as they're not uploading a video that I already have on my channel, or especially if they're re-uploading one of my 5.05 videos and then just changing the title to say that it's for 7.02 to get more views, which unfortunately I have seen a lot of people doing, and I appreciate the people who report those videos to me, so please do. If there's still a lot of those out there. Mr. Mario says, favorite retro console to modify. Favorite retro console? What would you consider retro? I guess I would say the PlayStation 1, because it's the first console I ever got. And as for the favorite one to mod, that's more your thing. I'm not actually really into modding older game consoles, especially like retro consoles. For me, I just run the games on an emulator on the PC, and that does me fine. So that's not really my thing. Are there any other exploit hosts like Al Aziv's? Yeah, his own exploit host is still up. It's just on a different server. He's got two servers that are hosting it right now. I can't remember the newer one off by heart, but the older one is still there on 165.227.83.145. So if you go to that IP address, you'll find it there. And then there's X Project. There's PS4 Gen2.github.io. There's lots of other exploit hosts you can find all over the place. We miss you in Switch custom firmware. Yeah, I miss the Switch as well, but I will be talking about that in my channel update video soon as well. But yeah, okay, so this video is pretty lengthy at this point, so I am going to cut it here. So I apologize if I didn't get to everybody's questions. There were way too many, and yeah, I should have recorded this days ago, but I was having a bunch of audio issues. I think I'm still having some audio issues, so I do apologize if there has been some issues in this video with the audio, but that's why I didn't record this sooner when there was less questions. But anyway, we got through a good amount at least. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for submitting your questions, and stay tuned for the channel update video and the video on covering the PS4 jailbreak rumors. I'll be doing a video on that very soon. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.